Steve Bannon pled guilty today in his border wall fraud case. The longtime Trump ally will avoid jail time as part of a plea agreement that was reached. Bannon was indicted in 2022 on charges of fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy, and today pleaded guilty to a single count of defrauding donors who gave money to help build a wall at the southern border. The plea comes just weeks before Bannon's trial was set to begin. 3 other men have been sentenced to prison related to the investigation into the project. President Trump today meeting with King Abdullah of Jordan at the White House. During the meeting, Trump continued to double down on his plan for the U.S. to take over Gaza and move the Palestinian people to neighboring countries like Egypt and Jordan.
It's not a complex thing to do. And with the United States being in control of that piece of land, a fairly large piece of land, you can have stability in the Middle East for the first time. And the Palestinians, or the people that live now in Gaza, will be living beautifully in another location.
During the meeting, King Abdullah pledged to take in 2,000 Palestinian children from Gaza, but was non-committal on Trump's broader plan for the region. Joining me to discuss this and much more, Brett Samuels, White House reporter here at The Hill. Brett, King Abdullah has said that this plan is a recipe for increased radicalism in the region. Experts say it could destabilize U.S. allies, including Jordan and Egypt. But during that meeting today, we all watched, Trump said he was adamant that Gaza is going to love this deal. They're going to like the plan that he's coming up with. So what now?
Yeah, it was sort of an awkward dynamic to watch where, these two men sitting next to each other. On the one hand, you had Trump just insisting that the U.S. would essentially be given Gaza, it sounded like. It wasn't really clear how the U.S. would take over Gaza, but that the U.S. would own Gaza, that Palestinians would relocate to these other Arab nations. While next to him, you had the King of Jordan essentially trying to tap the brakes and say, we're going to talk about this. We'll see what Egypt has to say. We'll see what other Arab partners has to say. So quite the interesting dynamic playing out in the Oval Office.
It seems to be a huge gulf between what Trump is saying and what experts and regional players in the Gulf region are saying. How do you resolve that?
It is interesting to watch Trump talk about this because it sort of is disconnected from the reality on the ground, I think, and a little disconnected from decades of policy essentially in the Middle East, where he is just talking, Trump is, about the U.S. would just take ownership of Gaza. And he gets asked under what authority? He just says under the U.S. authority. There's not really a lot of specifics there. He gets asked, what about people who don't want to leave Gaza, Palestinians who don't want to leave Gaza because that is their home, And he says they'll want to leave. They just have never had the alternative to go elsewhere. So there is a lot of, I think, disconnect, and it'll be interesting to see if Trump is able to present more details or if Arab nations come in and try to sort of fill in the gaps or present a counter proposal.
Yeah, Trump and the King of Jordan were saying waiting on proposals from Egypt. So it'll be interesting to see what the Egyptians come up with. The full Senate voted on Monday to advance Tulsi Gabbard. She is Trump's pick for Director of National Intelligence. One thought that her nomination was in serious jeopardy. There were concerns in the Republican Party. Yesterday, she got unanimous Republican support. She's almost certain to be confirmed later this week. How did she win over these Republicans, including some who are Trump skeptics?
Yeah, certainly you saw senators like Susan Collins, like Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, 2 senators who voted against Pete Hegseth, his Pentagon nominee, and who, as you mentioned, have been Trump skeptics. They're voting for Tulsi Gabbard. And it seems like the way Tulsi Gabbard was able to maneuver this is that she was able to address specific concerns that some of these senators had. She addressed concerns Susan Collins had about foreign surveillance programs that Gabbard had previously been critical of. She tried to address concerns about Edward Snowden, who she had previously praised, and who senators wanted to hear her essentially call a traitor or sort of distance herself from her past comments. So, by targeting those specific concerns, it seemed she was able to win over Republican support here.
President Trump promising to continue pressuring U.S. trade partners with increased tariffs on foreign imports. Here's what he had to say yesterday.
It's time to be reciprocal. So you'll be hearing that word a lot, reciprocal. If they charge us, we charge them. If they're at 25, we're at 25. If they're at 10, we're at 10. And if they're much higher than 25, that's what we are too. So that's having to do with everything. That's not just steel and aluminum.
And the European Union promising a firm and proportionate response to Trump's announcement of 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum. Seems like we have an escalation here that is going to be hard to find an off-ramp.
For sure. It seems like Trump, this is sort of the first step, these steel and aluminum tariffs, of what it's expected to be, a sort of back and forth trade war. And as we're expected to see as early as tomorrow, Wednesday, these reciprocal tariffs that he's going to announce.
Fed Chair Jerome Powell on Capitol Hill today testifying in front of the Senate Banking Committee. Here's what he had to say on Fed policy regarding interest rates.
With our policy stance now significantly less restrictive than it had been, and the economy remaining strong, we do not need to be in a hurry to adjust our policy stance. We know that reducing policy restraint too fast or too much could hinder progress on inflation.
Now, Trump has been critical of Powell over interest rates. He wants the president to have more control over the Fed in that respect. Powell's term is up next year. Is Trump going to replace him? And what do you make of these calls from people like Elon Musk, Mike Lee, senator from Utah, for Ron Paul to be the next Fed chair?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the Ron Paul thing, I think I'm skeptical that that's got legs to it, that'll make it off of social media.
He's like 90 years
old.
He's
89 years old, unlikely to take that job. But certainly I'd expect Trump to look to replace Powell with somebody who is more aligned and maybe gives him a little bit more flexibility and influence in sort of the Fed and how it sets interest rates.
We're just over 1 month before the government funding is set to run out. Republicans, they're struggling to agree on a spending plan, and they may end up looking to Democrats to help them avoid a government shutdown. Democrats say they may withhold their votes in protest of President Trump and Elon Musk's efforts to overhaul the federal government. Let's take a listen to Pete Aguilar. He's a Republican congressman from California.
No House Democrat wants to shut down government. If Republicans need votes, they can come to us, and we are happy to negotiate. There is, and I said this last week, there's very little appetite to help Republicans when we don't trust that Donald Trump is going to spend the resources that we've allocated.
What do you make of the Democrats' strategy here? Are they going to withhold their votes and possibly risk a government shutdown, even though they say they don't want one?
Yeah, it's always this game of chicken, it seems, when we approach the government funding deadline. But certainly Democrats, with such a narrow margin for Republicans in the House, where they need every Republican essentially to back this kind of bill, Democrats feel like they do have some leverage, and it seems like they are, at least for now, signaling that they're going to play hardball to win over their votes if needed.
As for Republicans, there was this 5-hour marathon meeting with President Trump last week to discuss the GOP agenda, including their plans for a reconciliation strategy. The reports were out of the meeting is that they were close to a deal. Mike Johnson, House Speaker, spoke about the issue today. Let's take a listen to that.
A markup is going to be scheduled for Thursday. That's the intention. The budget chairman Arrington just spoke to conference and said that we'll be rolling out the details of that probably by tonight. If they notice a markup, they can do it by Thursday, and we are right on the schedule that we need to be on. So stay tuned for more developments.
So Johnson seems to be saying nothing to see here. We're on pace to do as we said we were going to do, but that's strange because Republicans in the Senate seem to be saying the House is so dysfunctional that we're going to move forward with our own plan. What should we make of what Johnson is saying now and what's happening over in the Senate?
Yeah, we see Lindsey Graham, Trump ally in the Senate, who's pressing forward with his plan for this $300 billion package that, as they push this sort of two-step approach.
House wants a one-bill approach.
Exactly, yeah, everything packaged together. The House, it's always sort of this moving target, and, they had set sort of a Memorial Day deadline to have all of this done and to Trump's desk. That seems ambitious at this point, certainly. When you have such a fractious conference like House Republicans, it's tough to get everyone on the same page. So we'll see if they're able to get things in line to at least get the ball moving and have this markup, as Speaker Johnson previewed.
It's going to be very interesting to see where they settle on that one bill versus two bill plan. Huge implications for the Trump administration and Republicans' agenda moving forward. We'll leave it at that. Brett Samuels, thanks so much.
Thanks, Drew.
South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace took to the House floor Monday night to make an unusual and highly personal speech, alleging she and others were the victims of sexual abuse, voyeurism, and rape at the hands of her former fiancé and 3 other men. Here's what she had to say.
You have bought yourself a one-way ticket to hell. It is nonstop. There are no connections. So I and all of your victims can watch you rot for an eternity. Today is about justice.
Representative Mace went on to detail a number of specific allegations, including finding thousands of intimate photos and videos of women and underage girls on her then-fiancé's phone. She also alleged that she was raped after blacking out one night after she says she was purposely incapacitated. Mace's ex-fiancé responded to the Congresswoman in a statement categorically denying the allegations. Mace also went after the South Carolina Attorney General, Alan Wilson, who she claims delayed the investigation into the allegations for 7 months. Wilson's office later responded saying the allegations were never sent to his office. The South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, also known as SLED, confirmed Monday that it had opened an investigation into Mace's ex-fiancé in December of 2023 after being contacted by U.S. Capitol Police. SLED has not released any details of that investigation. Mace says she has evidence to back up her explosive claims, but has not yet presented it, and no criminal charges have been filed against any of the 4 men in question. The Trump administration's immigration crackdown seems to be slowing with each day, which is causing some frustration behind the scenes. Now administration officials are going after leakers and turning to unusual places to catch and deport migrants who are living in the U.S. illegally. Allie Bradley is at the border with more.
Yeah, Drew, and the ICE arrest numbers seem to be slowing down a little bit and falling because we're only seeing around 611 on average right now. And while President Trump said openly that he was not frustrated with the numbers, behind closed doors, he reportedly said he wants more arrests and said that the numbers are, quote, too effing low. So when it comes to what's happening next, Border Czar Tom Homan telling News Nation that he is pushing for higher numbers while still prioritizing public safety threats and national security threats. But he's not happy with the numbers either. In fact, he wants to see them triple. Take a listen to what he told our Kelly Meyer earlier today.
Mr. Homan, is the president happy with the number of arrests?
I'm not. The rest, if you look at the rest in the interior enforcement, about 3 times higher than what a year ago today. 3 times higher is good, but I'm not satisfied. There's more criminal aliens that need to be arrested, hundreds of thousands. Sanctuary cities are putting roadblocks up. We got leaks. So we need to increase the arrest of illegal aliens, especially those with criminal convictions. So we're going to continue. So 3 times higher is good. The numbers are good. For me, not good enough. We got to get more.
Now, Homan says they need congressional funding to be successful here. They need bed space. Right now, they're utilizing government resources like Fort Bliss and Guantanamo Bay, but they're also leaning on states like Georgia, where the prison in Atlanta is being used to house illegal immigrants marked for deportation. And in order to help cover more ground, News Nation has confirmed that the Department of Homeland Security asked the Treasury Secretary to deputize some IRS workers, including some of its criminal investigators, to assist in immigration enforcement. One of the other hurdles that they're facing is operational leaks. Whenever this happens, and it's happened several times, they've had to delay their plans of enforcement. The borders are saying that they're actually investigating the leaks in both Colorado and now Los Angeles. Homan saying that they believe they've identified who is behind each one and they will be seeking prosecution. He says they believe one traces back to the FBI and the Attorney General is investigating that one. Homan saying the plan is to have that person fired without pension. Now, Drew, the border czar says not only does this put officers' lives and safety at risk, but it gives the bad guys a heads up. On the Colorado operation, they actually went in with the intention of arresting at least 100 Tren de Aragua members, and they ended up only arresting 1, and that's because that operation was leaked. So those guys were able to basically scatter. So Tom Homan says this is not a game. He says regardless of what they do, ICE and the administration is not going to stop coming. Drew?
Allie Bradley, thank you. Elon Musk is looking to add another tech company to his lengthy list of assets. The billionaire turned presidential advisor and Doge leader is now heading a group of several investors aiming to buy OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT. The group of investors led by Musk made an unsolicited bid to buy the assets of the nonprofit in charge of OpenAI. The offer totals more than $97 billion. The bid is just the latest attack on the company from Musk, who helped create it nearly a decade ago.
The company is not for sale, neither is the mission. We're happy to buy Twitter if you want to talk about that.
The offer is a long shot, with the CEO of OpenAI, Sam Altman, saying about the offer in a post on X, "No thank you." It comes just a few weeks after Altman appeared beside President Trump and the heads of SoftBank and Oracle to announce a joint venture called Stargate. The president said then that Stargate would invest up to $500 billion to build infrastructure to support the development of artificial intelligence in the U.S. And that's today's Daily Debrief. I'm Drew Petrimoulx. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Hill's YouTube channel. And come back here soon for the intersection between politics and policy.